everybody, and welcome to this exclusive conversation with VR expert and CEO of Skills VR, Andy Trainer. My name is Ursula Jabres, and I'm the Global Director of Customer Growth for Meta's Reality Labs team. And I'll be putting the big questions to Andy in just a moment. But before I begin, I just want to take a couple of moments to talk about why we're here. In the last 18 months, there's been a lot of hype about the metaverse, and especially about what it might mean for the future of work. But all of this talk about the future misses one important fact, because there's already a technology that is changing the way businesses work today, and that technology is virtual reality. Virtual reality is having a huge impact on the way companies approach learning and development, providing many of the same benefits as on-the-job training, but without the costs, risks, and complexities. Andy is the perfect person to tell us more about this. And not only because his surname is Trainer, so let's get into it. Andy, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got started into virtual reality.
Well, thank you, Ursula. I really appreciate you having me here.
Of course.
So yes, my name is Andy Trainer. I'm CEO of Skills VR for North America. I'm actually 6 months in role. Previously, I was at Walmart for 23 years. I'm an industrial engineer by trade. Did lots of different roles within Walmart, but my last role was Chief Learning Officer for the Walmart U.S. business, supporting all the 1.6 million associates in the field.
Amazing, amazing. When was the light bulb moment when you realized that VR was the technology you wanted to start using?
It's an interesting story. So we started the Walmart Academies about 8 years ago, which is our physical training locations to teach our associates how to do their jobs.
Yeah.
And as we were training, we had to hire 3,000 facilitators to teach the department managers. And we were trying to learn, how do we train 3,000 facilitators all across the United States? So we went to a university to learn more about how they train their professors.
Right.
And in the tour of the university, we stopped by the athletic complex, and there was a athlete, a quarterback, a college football quarterback, with this big thing on his head with a cord sticking up in the ceiling, running around and air throwing and just sweating and out of breath. And so we stopped to watch to see what it was, and he was actually doing virtual reality training, learning the defenses of the next week's football team. So when he was done doing his training, we talked to him, and he was completely out of breath, covered in sweat, and we asked him, why are you so out of breath? And his point was, by doing the virtual reality training with the defenses, I don't have to think about it when I go into the next game. I've seen it all, and I can just react. And so that's where we realized that for training in a corporate environment, that virtual reality would be something really good. And this was 7 years ago that we rolled it out at Walmart.
Well, we've come a long way since then. We're no longer tethered to
That's right.
different devices. That's right. And what is the thing that excites you the most about VR?
Yeah, so what we saw was that as a learner goes through it, it becomes this experience.
Yeah.
And you remember an experience better. And so not only is it faster, but when it's this experience, it becomes a memory. And so our associates were learning quicker what to do, and they could fail in a safe environment and learn faster and experience things that we couldn't recreate in real life.
Right. And you mentioned when we talked, as we were preparing for this call, you mentioned that they feel like it's real, and they're going through the steps in terms of the training that they need to do, but also not just the hard skills training, but the soft skills training. And you're going to tell me a story that really gave me goosebumps when we get to your customer stories.
Right.
But tell me about how your journey into building your company or joining the company Skills VR and the products and services that you're now making available to more companies globally.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I was at Walmart, we were very early rolling out virtual reality. In fact, we bought 18,000 Oculus Go headsets.
Yes.
All that.
I remember that.
It
was incredible.
We were very happy. We took them from some of our competitors and had them all. And so we were so early that there wasn't a lot of enterprise softwares available. for virtual reality training. And so we had a lot of challenges that we were trying to fix, whether it was how to manage devices, how to manage content, the analytics and reporting, because in VR, because it's this experience, you can prove the behavior has been learned or not learned. Whereas in historical training, all you know is they answered the questions right and they sat through it, but you don't know if they learned the behavior. And so as we were going through different companies trying to figure out how we put this together and maximize the benefit of virtual reality, we came across Skills VR, and this was probably 4 years ago, pre-pandemic, and realized that all of the problems we were facing, Skills VR had solved. So we were in the process of bringing them in to work at Walmart. Obviously, then the pandemic hit, everything stopped. I moved on to a different role, and at Walmart, every few years, they want you to go do something different. I decided after 23 years, I wanted to do something. I wanted to make the choice. Walmart was awesome, loved it. But as I was reaching out to different people to see what other roles and opportunities were out there, I reached out to Skills VR really just to see if they knew of any companies that were looking for a new chief learning officer, to be honest. And in the discussions, they asked me if I would be interested to come work at Skills VR to kind of lead North America. And because of my experience scaling it out to 1.6 million people, I knew that what Skills VR had to offer was something that people needed and companies needed and just didn't know yet. And I also know that virtual reality training is the future and it's exciting and fun. So that's why I decided to move over to Skills VR.
I love it. I love it. It's amazing because your journey, your career journey really has been about helping driving efficiencies, helping people operate more productively, but it's really human-centered in terms of how do you help people learn and have fun in doing so. I would love if you can share a couple of customer stories, and we can focus on Walmart a little because I know that there are some really incredible learnings from that experience that the audience can benefit from, and then maybe we can talk about one of your new customers at Skills VR.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Walmart, as we were testing this out, our first real test case was skill-based. And so at Walmart, there's something called a wet wall, where it's all the leafy green vegetables, and it's very complicated, and it's the highest throwaway area within a store. So there's humidity levels, moisture content, temperature, stack heights, and it's very hard to train someone to run that area. It was taking us about 2 weeks, and the turnover was after about 2-3 months, someone would leave, and we'd have to retrain somebody. So it was really difficult area to keep staffed and to keep the throwaway to a minimum. So we built a 3-minute module that you walk down the wet wall aisle and you have to identify what's wrong. And it's timed. And once you're done, then you have to go back and explain why you picked what you picked, and then it tells you what you missed. And so we ran people through that in 3 minutes, and they could run the whole wet wall without anybody intervening with them. So we saw our turnover drop, our training time cut from weeks to minutes. And what really drove it was we can create situations and scenarios in VR in 3 minutes that would take a week and a half to happen. A piece of equipment breaks, stuff gets stacked the wrong way. And so the associates were able to fail in a safe way, find things that were wrong, and fix it, and again, experience it so they remembered it. So that's when we knew that it would be impactful for hard skills.
3 minutes. This is incredible.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
That's amazing.
Someone who never even knew what a wet wall was could run it in 3 minutes. It was amazing. And then we started moving into soft skills. And so we had lots of scenarios with difficult conversations, with empathy, customer interaction. It's really good to create environment where you learn what the customer is feeling. And so we did a lot of flipping back and forth between you're a cashier and someone's mad at you because they're waited in line so long, and you have to react to it. And then we would flip it, and now you're the customer going through the line having to wait and understanding the frustration that's happening and why those things are happening. The big one for us at Walmart that really helped us understand the impact of it is probably the best worst story I have. So unfortunately, active shooter is a challenge that we have today especially in our stores, where someone wants to come in and hurt our customers. And so we had the typical e-learning module where you would sit for 30 minutes, watch this video, answer some questions, and it just wasn't effective. Some watched it, some didn't. We didn't get completion rates that we wanted to. And so we knew we had to do something because people's lives were at stake.
Yes.
So we shut down a store overnight and filmed an active shooter situation. There was no blood, no gore, but you saw the shooter, saw the gun, heard the shots.
Right. And you saw the reactions of people.
And you saw the reactions of people. And so it was about 10 minutes long, and you had to decide throughout the 10 minutes what to do next at each stage, and make choices, and then deal with those choices in the module.
Yeah.
We got huge feedback, positive feedback on it. Initially, some of the feedback was from a lot of the leaders, not the associates taking it, but the leaders, was that it was too traumatic, and it could trigger some emotions in people.
Of course.
And my answer was yes, and that's the point, is that if it's something we have to train on because it could happen.
Right.
Do you want the first time an associate has to learn how to react to be in real life when there's a real gun in real life in that situation? And so we rolled it out. We were putting 1 million people a quarter through it.
That's incredible.
Super effective. To the point about 3 years ago, we had a terrible situation in El Paso, Texas.
I remember
where a gunman came in a store and killed 23 people, injured about 20 as well. But there was over 2,000 people in the store at the time.
Wow.
And so as we went back to try to understand what happened and why the 23 lost their lives and why the 2,000 didn't, most of the 23 that lost their lives ran into the front of the store into a bank, and there was no exit. And so they couldn't get out. But as we learned more, the shooter wandered the store for a little while and didn't get stopped by the police, didn't run out of bullets, didn't decide to stop. There was nobody left in the store for him to shoot.
Right.
Thank goodness. And so as we started to talk to the associates about why, what happened, every single associate mentioned that the VR training made them instinctively know what to do. They didn't have to think about it. They didn't have to try to remember what they read or what they watched. It was this memory that was burned into their mind, and they just instinctively got people out. And so they saved over 2,000 people. And that's when we knew VR was different, that if a once-in-a-lifetime that you hope never happens, traumatic situation, in 10 minutes in VR can make you remember that, then wow, what could it do for leadership or difficult conversations or other soft skills? So that's when we rolled it out to all 1.6 million.
Amazing. It saved lives.
It did.
And I like the approach that if it's going to be triggering for some people, at least you're doing it into a safer environment where they can speak with a counselor right after and talk through their emotions. And there is that process before they're faced with that real life situation.
Exactly.
That story always gives me goosebumps. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Tell me about your new customer. I know that you're working on something exciting because that's also an interesting story in terms of a new pivot for Skills VR.
Yeah, there's a big construction company based out of Miami that we're working with that has a challenge with when they finish a home, they build residential construction for houses, that when they're ready to turn it over to the final customer, there's supposed to be a final walkthrough by the construction crew. Yeah. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And so when the customer gets their new house, which is the biggest moment of their life, the toilet's missing, or the floor is cracked, or the room's not painted, or the yard's flooded. So they're getting a lot of negative feedback from the customer because things weren't completed. Right. So we're working with them on a couple of things. One of them is, how do you build a VR module to recreate real customer complaints? And so these construction managers will walk through in VR the house with the customer complaints and have to go find what was messed up and fix it and understand why it was missed. And then it flips it. Now you have to go tell the customer why it was messed up and how you fixed it and how long it's going to do. Because part of the problem is, obviously, the customer's upset. Right. And in construction, the construction manager is very used to talking to trades. Right. You talk to a trade very different than you talk to a customer. And so this is helping them, one, identify the most common misses, but also how do you talk to a customer in a way that the customer feels better when you're done,
Right.
and have a more engaging conversation. We're also talking to them about site safety. So we do a lot of virtual reality training on construction safety.
That's
on
great.
whether it's equipment or
Right.
heights, because again, you can fail in a safe environment and not hurt yourself or someone else.
That's right.
So yeah, lots of really cool opportunities for it.
That's amazing. I can't wait. And I think we can all identify with when we're, having a remodel or having to walk into a house. When there's issues, we're really connecting with the frustration, and the training really helps drive empathy from the construction manager.
Right.
So Andy, love the stories that you just shared with us. And obviously the first one about the shooter training, the ROI and saving lives is immediately evident to everyone who's watching. But how do you think through return on investment as a leader who's looking to bring some innovation into the way they do learning and development? And how does Skills VR help businesses think through that?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a learning leader, you get asked that question every single day. What's the benefit? What's the ROI based on what we do? And that's part of the reason what drove me to Skills VR is because we have a very unique analytics and reporting that helps us do that. But I think ROI, number one, it's always faster.
Right.
99% of the time, virtual reality is faster than conventional training because you can create this experience, and they go through an experience versus you have to watch and then explain it.
Right.
So we see the active shooter training was a 30-minute e-learning module down to 10-minute VR. So yes, it saved lives, and there's no question that's the bigger benefit. But it cut our time down by two-thirds.
Wow.
And was significantly more impactful. I think with Skills VR, what's unique is we have something we call learning records that we attach to the learning module.
Okay.
And so in VR, because you can track eye movement, face movement, voice, hand movement, body movement, we can statistically prove that the behavior or skill was learned or not learned. So we can tell in customer service, did you look somebody in the eye? Did you smile? Or did you frown? Did you step back or forward? Did you breathe the wrong way? Did you say the wrong thing? Did you move the wrong way? And so each of those we can track with the analytics, and we actually have a report, an ROI report, that you put in a few bits of information from your old training method, and we compare it to the new VR module with all the people that went through it. And you can print out a one-page report that says, here, this module, it used to take you 30 minutes, now it takes you 10. So it's this much faster and saves you this much money. Oh, and by the way, with your e-learning, you only know that 80% of the people answered the questions right, and 90% took it. Whereas on this one, we can statistically prove to you that the behavior was actually learned in the situation that you wanted it to be learned. And that's something really huge for learning executives. I can't tell you how many times at Walmart, I would have to go to a court to defend our training. Someone was trained to do something, but they didn't do it the right way. We would have to go to court to talk about it. And typically, all you can tell in court is we gave them the training, and here's, yes, they attended, and two, yes, here's the questions they answered right or wrong. And typically, the next question is, but do you know they learned the behavior? With VR, I can answer 100%. Yes or no, because I can prove to you statistically that the behavior I wanted them to exhibit, they did in the environment that they were going to be in. So that's really the power of what we do at Skills VR is we build content for sure. We can manage your content and control who sees it. It's like a whole enterprise platform from the beginning to the end. But we have a lot of analytics and reporting around it that allow you to prove and justify the training that you have. And then as you get more and more content, we have a tool that allows you to build your own content as well, which is a huge cost.
Well, the scalability from that, because you can really repurpose that training for all the employees that you're hiring, new onboarders, like existing employees.
The biggest challenge we had once we scaled out at VR at Walmart was the content. When you change your logo color, when you change your wording, when you change the way you want someone to react to a situation, we would have to rebuild all that content, and it gets very expensive. With Skills VR, with our content creation tool, you have the ability, the customer has the ability to update it on their own. Very easy, very simply, very quickly. So it takes that huge cost that prohibits you from scaling it even more, takes that away and allows you to use it as much as you want.
That's amazing. That's great news, actually.
Yeah.
You're empowering.
Democratizing content.
I love it. You're empowering your clients to kind of own that content and make it their own as they evolve their business.
That's right.
I love it. So as we look through your personal journey and everything that you've learned in technology and also in the practices that you've led, I would love for you to share 5 key insights that you have learned that you believe leaders who are listening to us should also listen to.
All right. I would say number 1, experiencing it matters, especially for VR. Once someone puts a headset on, they understand. Yeah. The way I sold it at Walmart was there's a module called Walk the Plank, where you basically are on top of a skyscraper and you have to walk out on a 6-inch board about 1,000 feet off the ground and step off. I put the C-suite leaders at Walmart at the time all in one room, and each of them went through it individually and watched the others. No one could step off. No one. They all laughed at each other. They all thought it was a joke, and they could do it. But they put the headset on, they forgot where they were, and they couldn't step off.
Right.
After I did that, none of them questioned the power of VR, and it was easy to roll out. So number 1 is experiencing it matters. Yeah. I think number 2 is if you're not failing, you're not trying.
We talked about this.
Yeah. If everything you do works, you're not trying hard enough. You've got to fail to learn. So I think that's a big one. I think the third is go after the big problem. So a lot of the folks we talked about when we were trying to roll out VR was, let's find something easy, do that first. We actually went the opposite way, and what's the biggest problem everybody agrees on, and let's go solve that problem. And then if we can solve that problem that everyone agrees is a problem, then everything else becomes easy. So that was a big one for us, is go after the big one.
I like that.
I think 4, you're making me count here.
I know.
4 would be listen to the end user. So don't get caught up in your palace in their home office. Go out and understand what the end user sees and feels and reacts to.
And I really liked on that front that in all your stories there's always a type of feedback loop at the end of the training where you ask those folks that went through the training or maybe went through the live scenario, how did that feel and how they felt empowered by the new skill set that they learned. Yeah,
it's really important to understand what their problems are, and then if you solve their problems, they'll be your biggest champions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the last one would be empower your people and get out of their way. Yes, I was leading the team, but I had a team of amazing people who I just let them go do what they wanted to go do and cleared the path for them. And so if all the solutions and answers are mine, we're going to fail.
Right.
And so my job and their job as leaders is get good people and let them loose, and they'll fix it for you.
I love it. And then they'll follow on those 5 items, right? If you're not failing, you're not succeeding at the end. I love it. And this is my favorite and last question. We talked about it. If you had a crystal ball, right? What do you think VR for work is going to look like in 2, in 5, and in 10 years? And there's no wrong answers. This is like the fun. Yeah. Let your imagination run wild.
Yeah, 2 years, I think VR will be common for training. I think we're not there yet. There's a lot of myths about it's too expensive, too complicated. It's not. It definitely has a very high ROI. It's very easy. Yes, there's some challenges to scaling any kind of technology, but so I think 2 years, it will be a common piece of what we do from a training perspective. 5 years, I think it'll be integrated into everything we do. I think the headsets are going to be a lot smaller, a lot lighter, better pass-through, and you'll just be able to experience it as you go and when you want to. Wow, 10 years. Hopefully I'm retired.
I love it.
I would say that what we consider the metaverse it'll all be almost integrated. We won't know that there won't be these two separate things. Everything will be all integrated, and the glasses you're wearing now can be VR headsets or augmented reality, and it'll just be seamless. Is my guess.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, like your grandchildren and my kids, we're witnessing today how quickly they context switch.
That's
Once
right.
the technology catches up to them.
That's right.
It'll be seamless. I love that. Well, thank you so much. I can't believe how time has flown by, but that is all the time we have, folks. A big thank you to Andy for sharing so many great stories, personal stories, and great insights about how VR has helped businesses really change the way learning and development is embraced.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who has taken the time to listen. I hope that we've left you feeling inspired and also curious. So if you want to know more about VR for work, just head over our website, forwork.meta.com, where you can check out a range of Quest headsets and software applications and solutions. Or easily you can book a call with one of our experts. And if you want to learn more about Skills VR, which I highly recommend, just head over skillsvr.com. And that's all from us. See you next time.